Hi there, welcome back. And this is our last episode in the second series of the Golf Fit system. Ollie, how are you feeling about our Q&A today?
It's a bit emotional, don't know. It's been an experience.
It has. We've been a bit slow with these recent episodes. You've got to remember we're both full-time coaches, so we don't always get to do as many YouTube videos as we'd like, but hopefully we can finish in a high. We've got some questions here that people have sent us in. We're going to try and answer them as best we can. I'll try and direct the questions to the most relevant coach if I can as well. So we'll start off with Chris. So Chris asks, he says his jump height has improved. He's been working his jump height. A lot of people read that if they improve their jump height, they should be able to hit their golf ball further. That's well publicised. So he says his jump height has improved, but his club head speed hasn't went up. Okay. And he's wondering why that might be. I think I'll try and field this one first and then you can go with it. Yeah. One of the reasons this might be is because although jump height will help you increase force vertically, it might not help you increase force in the other planes. And we don't just use vertical force in the golf swing. So Ollie can tell a bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, effectively what we've got 3 buckets of force. We've got the vertical, which you mentioned, we've got lateral, which is side to side, and then you've got rotational or angular. So, end of the day, if you're increasing one power source and not utilising the other 2, that's maybe the answer. Plus, as it sounds, it's a long way from kind of the ground through to the club head. And equipment is obviously a bit of a factor there as well. So if you've got ill-fitting golf clubs, too much, bend and flex in the shafts, or too little, that can have an effect on your club head speed as well.
Yeah, that's true. There's going to be lots of factors. I also think that if you have someone who doesn't use the ground well, then potentially a technical intervention can help them do that. Or if they're happy with the way they're swinging, they're happy with the game that they're playing, then maybe jump height isn't going to be the thing that's going to increase club head speed for them. So they maybe want to work on some other things. Otherwise, it's a good reason, I would think, to then use someone like Ollie, who maybe has a force plate to test whether you use vertical force very much. Then if you do, great, go and do as much jump height training as you can, and then it's going to help get your club head speed up and get it more efficient.
Yeah, effectively, golf and hitting the golf ball is a skill, and you've got that element of motor learning or the actual movement pattern, but then you've also got the physical capacity. Yeah. So if you've got the physical capacity, that kind of hints that, it might be a technical intervention, might be the best way forward. So that would be kind of when you come to kind of my department and see where kind of those power links might be.
Yeah. Okay, the next one is from Lauren. Lauren asks, what's the difference between golf fitness and generic training / fitness? Okay, well, this one can be quite complex, but I'm going to try and keep it simple. It's a bit to do with luck, really. I think golf fitness, like any specific type of fitness, is you trying to get fit for that purpose. So you would do things like a needs analysis. You would find out what specifically you need for that sport, and you would find out what that person needs the most, and then build training around that. Generic training can still help someone, so whether it's with an online program or with a PT in the gym that's just working on aesthetics, it could help you. You could actually get better at golf through that type of training, but it's a total hit or miss because it probably hasn't been designed deliberately around your performance in golf. So you might get lucky and work on the areas you need to work on, or you might totally miss it altogether and end up not really making any improvements and wonder why that is. It's as simple as I can keep that.
And nothing more I can add.
This is a good one, but as well, this is a bit of a myth, I think. Heather asks, how do I stop my right knee straightening on the backswing and improve my weak hips? Okay, what's your opinion on that? I have an opinion, but I'll let you go first. You're the golf man. Okay, so what do you think about Heather's question about right knee straightening at the top of the backswing?
I guess it kind of comes back to that, as like, why are you not wanting that to happen? I always relate everything back to ball flight, and I hear a lot of people talking about right knee straightening and keeping it flexed, but through using gears and 3D analysis, all great ball strikers I've seen do have some form of knee extension or straightening.
You kind of have to, don't you? You kind of have to get I mean, even just turning into that backswing, you're going to have to free hips to turn. That's going to at least appear to straighten.
Yeah.
I think there's a difference between, especially if you're female players or you're more mobile, because females tend to be more mobile as well. There's a difference between this type of straightening and this type of straightening.
Yeah.
Now, the bigger issue there for me isn't just the knee straightening, and that's not really the issue. It's more, where does your weight go? And that's what, when you've got this kind of kick tilt, I know everybody's not got access to that, but sometimes you see that, and if I'm screaming and I see someone doing that in a test, then my question is about the right knee straightening. There's something a little more obvious there that's going to cause you a problem.
Yeah.
And that's weight shift, by the way, if that was clear.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's one of those, isn't it? It's like, look, keep it big picture. You know, if you we're talking about whole movement there, that, you know, if you, the overall loading pattern is more of a concern. So if that right knee straightens, I've often done it as well, that, you know, if someone struggles to turn into that hip or that side, you know, I've often utilised right knee extension just to kind of facilitate the hips turning. So, you know, it comes back to needs analysis, doesn't it? It comes back to, you know, find out the source of the issue. Is that knee staying bent because it's a physical thing, or is it a technical thing, or even is it as an equipment thing? I think, you know, that's not said enough. Yeah. I mean, look at all the factors. I mean, really, sometimes I think people base things on aesthetics. Yeah. Where should I be? Where it's like, well, what's the ball doing? What the outcomes of that first? Work backwards from that. Don't go, I think my right knee should be bent at the top of my backswing. Yeah. Why do you think that? Figure that out first. Absolutely, yeah. You know, obviously, you know, good play is often a series of compensating mistakes. So, you know, it's, you know, don't try and be perfect. Excellent will do. They get it in their head that they want to change their body shape, so they lose a lot of mass. When it comes to kind of
in terms of stuff to make your hips stronger, that purely depends if you've got time to actually commit to doing exercises every week, and if you do, great. There's lots of exercises you can do. Lunges, bridges, just to start, would be really good for strengthening up your hips. But yeah, in terms of that, if you've not got that time, then I think I would go back to what Ollie said, and if you're just doing the technical side of it, then you maybe don't need to work on that the way you thought you did. You might have to reevaluate what you want to do with that.
Yeah, it's just be smart with it. I think that, you know, it's, you know, sometimes aesthetics don't trump function in my books.
So Ollie, Alistair has asked, what's the quickest way for a handicapped golfer to lower their handicap?
Okay, so easiest way is to go play, and then the biggest thing that I see most high handicappers not doing is reflecting on their play.
So what do you think, you know, most golfers when they're out there playing, do you think they learn enough from their game when they're playing to get the handicap down? You know, if Alice is asking how to get the handicap down, and
you know, to be honest, I see a lot of people, what they do is when they go play, they don't really reflect. You know, they don't actually turn around and go, oh, like, what was good today? What could have been better? So they don't really analyse like their game. So I think that at the end of the day, what they're doing is that then they're not really fueling any practice or any even kind of advice for coaching. So I would always kind of start there. If you wanted to lower your handicap, go out there, identify the areas of your game that was good, and look at it through two lenses. One, which is like your ball control or your skills, but then you also got your performance state, or, you know, or self-control. So the thing there is that you've got a lot of people focus on how many greens we've hit, or how many fairways we've hit, or how far I've hit it, but they won't look at the story behind it about how they were as an individual and how they managed themselves around that golf course. Things like pre-shot routine, your in-shot routine, post-shot routine, and even in between your shots. So, you know, I think that, you know, the biggest thing there is just making sure that you do spend a bit of time, 5-10 minutes, just reflecting on your play. Basically, play, but then more importantly, learn from your play. I think a lot of golfers go and do the same thing again and again and don't stop and go,
kind of learn from that what I'm building on here. So yeah, totally agree with that.
Just to kind of close up on a good quote, an experience without reflection is a learning opportunity missed.
There you go. Cool. Next one is from Gordon. Gordon asks, how to keep stable through the shot? I tend to get ahead or behind in my shots. My immediate reaction is watch our last video.
Yeah. Quick answer.
Yeah. But anything else you'd like to add to that?
I guess stability comes from you got to start with a needs analysis. Haven't you? You've got to start basically. Is it a physical thing? Is it a technical thing?
Yeah.
And then is it also an equipment thing?
Yeah.
That's it sounds. If you've got really soft shoes,
Yeah,
foundation. So
as much as footwear, definitely. Some drills can help. Some exercises can help. You need to know that's an issue.
Yeah. Again, find out where the source of the issue is.
Yeah. We've got a question from Xander here. Xander asks, why would my iron swing speed be relatively higher than my driver swing speed? So Xander's obviously got quite a decent swing speed with his irons, but maybe not what we'd expect with that iron speed and his driver speed. So why would you see that?
You typically tend to see that when you've got, it goes back to the 3 buckets of force, really. You've got if somebody's more vertical and doesn't use the lateral and rotations as much, you tend to obviously see that because you hit down on the ball, that facilitates potentially more ground reaction force.
Right.
When that ball's teed up, when you're more likely to hit more up on the ball, that then starts to bring in that lateral angular or rotational side, so you can't utilise that vertical force as efficiently, and then also brings into question the equipment. If you've got a driver that's not fitted for you, it's too flexible, too soft or too hard, then the amount of clip head speed that you generate is going to be influenced there with things like deflection and droop of the shaft. So, again, no hard and fast rule, but again, it could be equipment, but it's then looking at these power sources.
Yeah.
So then analyse, using a 3D system like we've shown with gears, balance plate, TrackMan, start to understand how you generate force and where the power leaks might be.
Yeah, those force plates really, pay for themselves, are really good. Okay, so this is the best part. Now we're going to get to is Ollie. I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you a question that you don't know is coming.
Okay.
I'm going to see if we can get a straight answer from you.
Okay.
Let's keep it fairly short.
Right. Okay, promise.
Okay, so my question to you is, what's the most common swing issue you see that you feel is usually caused by physical restriction? So one that you see, you can almost tell straight away you think this person must have some sort of physical limitation for them to struggle with this.
Sway and slide.
There you go.
Lateral motion and mid swing.
Yeah.
That would be my very, very common swing fault, if you will.
Right.
Having a major influence on things like low point angle attack and contact. So.
Right, okay. And what makes you immediately clock that that's a physical thing? And not just a thing that they've developed themselves?
It's usually just because, what I see a lot of when I go in and screen, spot screen, I'll just basically look at lower quarter rotations is kind of the way that I would look at that.
Yeah.
I just think day-to-day life, actually rotating into both of your left and your right leg is just not a very common movement in day-to-day life.
Yeah.
So movement, from my understanding, is basically if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
So I don't see many people, unless you're maybe standing at a bar and rotating and,
I think quite a common myth is that poor posture will bring you pain, and that's not true. But what it does do, if you stay in the same posture for one time and you don't use the full range of motion, you tend to, as I always say, lose that range of motion. So it's not so much a case of you're going to suffer with it day to day or notice it as much day to day with hip rotation, for most people anyway. But if you then ask your body to try and use it, it's not going to be there for you because you've not been using it throughout your life.
Yeah. So that would be my top 2 basically. Okay, Craig, so I've got a question for you.
Of course you do.
So how would you challenge the perception of aesthetics over function? So what I mean by that is, if you look at a golfer and they're maybe a little bit heavier, how do you challenge the perception that people ultimately think, oh well, they don't work out, and they're a good golfer and they don't work on golf specific fitness? How do you challenge that?
Thank you for the question. I think it's something that's never going to change. There was a time when I thought you could get the word out there a bit more, but I realised that it's never going to change. People are always going to have a look at that and see a person and they think, oh, that person's fit just because they're slim, or that person's not fit because they're fat. And the truth is, the way I would look at it is the word fitness itself. And for me, the word fit means fit for a purpose. So you would be fit for the purpose of playing golf. You would be fit for the purpose of looking aesthetically pleasing. You could be fit for both. You can be fit for more than one purpose. But when people say just being fit, fit for what? You have to be fit for something. So that for me is the biggest thing to consider when you're looking at golfers, is the fact that there's no way for you to really tell whether Adam Scott and Beef do exactly the same training. I know Beef trains, and I know people probably don't like to think that. They like to think that he's just having a burger all the time, but he does. I've seen his training sessions, and I don't know enough about the two training to realise which one works harder, and I can't tell from just looking at it. I think that's important to consider. And the fact is that even though some players will work hard aesthetically as well, so they will add that into the training. That's allowed. I've had two players ask me, how can I look better? The guys are spending, and girls as well, are spending time on TV, so there's a lot of pressure on them to maybe look a certain way, even for, dare I say it, for sponsors as well, to make sure they fit the sponsor's image. But they're adding that in. And the other part of it as well is you've got all sorts of factors like genetic factors, eating, sleeping, drinking, how these things affect their image. But the two, golf fitness and aesthetic fitness, don't necessarily go hand in hand. You get someone who moves really, really well in all our specific screens for the ability to swing a golf ball, but maybe doesn't look the way you'd expect. Again, you can have really nice swing. He's got a beautiful swing. John Daly's got a great engine in it. So yeah, I wouldn't really put the two hand in hand.
Yeah, I think it's probably a good mentality to have, that separation of the two things. That being, you want to train to be functionally fit for your sport, and obviously, but I guess it comes back down to intention, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you've got the intention to look better, then you're going to train a certain way.
Yeah.
But if you're also trying to perform for a sport, well, you also need to have a look at how all these influences might impact on your performance, and how that might affect on your lifestyle.
You can definitely do both, but it's a case of you have to realise there's only a limited amount of time for people to train. So what's the highest priority? You've got to be honest with yourself and ask yourself, what do I care about the most? Do I want to look good and then maybe add a little bit of confidence in it, or do I really want to perform best? Is that what's most important to me? And I don't want to look a little bit better for it as well. So most people who do, if you're not doing anything, you still start training and look and feel better anyway, just from doing a specific thing. This is quite a high level when it starts to get better.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that, Ollie.
It's a pleasure.
Hopefully we can do it again sometime. If you'd like to give us any questions or any ideas for our next series, if you could leave some comments or hit us up on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, any of those places. Make sure you like the videos, subscribe and hit the little bell, you get notified when we start another series. And thanks for watching.
Thanks folks. Cheers.
See you later.
Welcome to News at 10.
Yes.